In 2011, NASCAR began using a 15% ethanol blend exclusively in its 3 national racing series. In 2017, they eclipsed the 10 million mile mark on E15. This biofuel blend is a cornerstone of the NASCAR Green Sustainability Initiative, which has proven to be extremely successful in reducing the sport's environmental impact. It delivers more horsepower and lower carbon emissions. Fuel management is key to success in NASCAR. I asked Dr. Eric Warren, the Director of Competition for Richard Childress Racing, for some insight.
So basically, each race is a certain length. So say it's a 400-mile race. The objective is to get to the finish line and have 400 miles quicker than anyone else. And so sometimes, depending upon when pit stops happen or cautions happen, it ends up being what we call a fuel mileage race. So let's say we can go 60 miles on a tank of gas, or it's more like 100 miles on a tank of gas. Depending upon the racetrack, that might be 60 laps, might be 50 laps if it's a 2-mile track. And so if that caution comes out with 53 laps to go or 110 miles to go, you have to stretch and make sure you actually start saving fuel, because making it to the end of the race is more important than having to make an extra pit stop to get fuel. So certainly understand how much fuel you have in the car, what your fuel mileage is on each run, how that's affected by handling, and a couple other things, and then what's the best way to save fuel, all comes into play at a lot of the different races.
How much goes in on the pit stop?
So each pit stop in the normal course of a race, we won't quite stretch it all the way till the tank is empty. So the tank will hold about 18.5 gallons, sometimes 18.7. So typically most pit stops we're putting in 17.5 gallons to 18. We always give ourselves about a gallon margin until we're really trying to cut it close towards the end of the race. So that's typically a good average one for a full green run, 17.5, 18 gallons.
And mileage-wise, there's a variation between whether he's on it or whether he's not. Can you throw an MPG number at it?
So basically it depends on how the car's handling, how much off throttle time there is of that particular race. Here it's a little different in Pocono because you shift at 3 corners, but typical intermediate track for us, we'll see about 5.2 miles a gallon, sometimes up to 5.5, and maybe here, maybe more like 5.1.
Can you see feedback on how efficient it is? Like, can you see like an air fuel gauge or some kind of?
No. So the instrumentation available to the driver, he only sees the RPM and lap time, and a lot of the ECU days are recorded, but we can't get it till after. So we really have to work in practice and work on our test rigs back at the shop on what's the best way to save fuel for a lap and not lose as much lap time. So there's a particular method of lifting early at the end of the straightaways, not using brake, and we have different magnitudes of that. So if we're only trying to save, say, 1/10 of a mile per gallon, he knows he got to back his corner up, say 100 feet. If it's 3/10 of a mile per gallon and we're more aggressive because we're trying to stretch it a few more laps, he'll back it up a further distance, and then there's those last few laps where you're not going to get past, and what is the absolute max fuel saving. So there's a lot of different methods depending upon how much lap time you want to give up and what the strategy calls for.
Austin Dillon, the driver of the number 3 car, told us what it was like to win his first race at his home track in Charlotte, thanks to expert fuel management.
Being at home in front of my family, friends, one of only 3 North Carolina drivers that are in the Cup Series, it was very special. And then also with a partner like American Ethanol to win on fuel mileage, it was even better.
What kind of tactics do you use in a race to conserve fuel?
First of all, you still have to have speed. You have to be toward the front of the field to be able to go after a fuel mileage race. So we had a good car that entire race. And then when it comes down to saving, it's really about being smooth on the throttle pedal, lifting early, about 200 feet, to get the amount of time needed off the fuel to be able to save laps. So I was doing a really good job of picking a point on the track, lifting there, coasting, using no brake. When you get off the brake pedal, it allows you to roll faster and longer. So I was using no brake, lifting early, about 200 feet on both ends. And then just as I applied the gas, I was real smooth. I wasn't trying to jab the gas or get to full throttle too early. I was trying to really just smoothly lay the pedal down. And that was able to make us go a couple laps longer than anybody else.
You don't have any real feedback in there's no gauge that shows you how much fuel you're using at any given time.
Right. The only thing we have is a fuel pressure, and it comes on when you're out pretty much. And you can see it drop. When it drops, we also have a a quarter gallon? about a quarter of a gallon in this one area. So when it drops, we flip a switch, and that's how much fuel we have left to get us around for another lap. So with 2 to go, we flipped that just for emergencies, and we had just enough in there.
It's all ear and seam of the pants?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's math to it too. The guys were watching where I was lifting on the track and trying to calculate feet into the amount of lap time of lift. And then also the lap time accounts for it. They can pretty much take a lap time and figure out the fuel savings in that lap time of how much I've slowed up from a fast lap time.
What's it like driving here in Pocono?
Pocono is another place where fuel mileage is important. You see fuel mileage races won here, but there's 3 different corners here. You got a flat end, a banked end, and then a really tight, I don't know if you call it a corner. I mean, it's turn 2 is something else. It's just like a kink, and you try and get through that as fast as you can.
So you're shifting?
Every lap, yep. We'll be shifting to 3rd, back to 4th every lap in turns 1 and 3, and most of the time in 2 also. A lot of tracks where we don't shift at all. Here, road courses, maybe one other track like Phoenix where you downshift.
Next week you got Watkins Glen?
A lot of shifting at Watkins Glen.
You like the road courses?
I do. I'm enjoying them. I've been working hard on them, getting better, and this week I'll be on the simulator all week leading up to Watkins Glen.
So video games do make a difference?
Simulators make a difference. I don't know about video games, but the simulators that we've built, they definitely help.